Let's do a review for the movie Inuo. Inuo was a movie that Sage put me on to. He was very excited to talk about it there and to let me aware of it. So I'm always interested to see some new things there. Check it out. And Sage usually has really a great eye for things. So what is Inuo about? So this takes place in 14th century Japan. Follows two people. The character of Inuo, who is a dancer born with these kind of deformities that he has there that's made him ostracized in society, even from his own family. Things that kind of makes him different. He has this very long arms and he has a disfigured face, as well as kind of body going on. His arm, think of like that episode of Rick and Morty when Rick had that arm going on and he fought in all the kind of those battles in the arena, kind of like that. There's a little bit kind of going on with him. And then there's a blind musician. Who's Tomino, is the blind musician.
Yeah, he changes his name a couple times, but he starts out as Timona.
Tomono there. So there's this blind musician, and they join together there to form this epic group there of musicians there. And they take their kind of artistic abilities on the road, and it kind of enthralls these people in Japan there. The music that plays in it is very much kind of the modern element of it because it's very much like kind of heavy metal, hair metal type music that they play.
I'd say
Uh,
it's primarily inspired by a combination of Queen, David Bowie, and Michael Jackson.
mm, yeah, so you got that. So everybody kind of is loving these people there, but their music is drawing a lot of negative attention from the wrong people there, and they're being threatened there with that. But Sage, I want to get your thoughts on this. What is your thoughts on India?
And this is also it's loosely because there's a lot of fantastical stuff going on here with the literal magic and also the music they're playing. I mean, you're hearing instruments that wouldn't exist and this kind of blend of things. But this is also loosely inspired by like a real story from ancient Japan about some street performers whose art was basically destroyed, considered culturally unacceptable by authority figures and you know, just the work that they had was just kind of completely erased from history. And so no one knows what that actually looked like. So then this movie fictionalizes and kind of embellishes the tale of what that art might have been. But I think this is a really beautiful movie. And at its core, I'd say about just kind of the need to allow creativity and storytelling and to tell really different types of stories, no matter how kind of risky or weird or off the beaten path they might be. And I think it hits that message pretty hard too as it goes along. But for as serious as its message is, I think this movie is also just a really fun blast of a time to watch. It kind of feels like a concert film in a lot of ways. It has these big epic musical numbers, and each one gets kind of more fanciful and over the top than the one before it. And yeah, I mean, it goes by for me. It goes by very quickly. I feel like you hardly feel the runtime at all.
Mm. It's on Netflix right now. People want to check it out and watch it, so it's readily available there for that. The reason we picked this movie, it is June right now. It is Pride Month. There's a character in this movie who, like you said, changes his names multiple times in it.
And both of them kind of do a little bit of that as well. Inuo, the character, is basically because of the ostracization that you were talking about, isn't given a name at all by
Mm.
by his family, and so it's they name themselves, and then the other character is like, oh, I never even really thought about that, and then they also kind of go through some name changes after that.
Mm. Yeah. So Inuit is supposed to mean dog king, I think is
Yep, it's somewhat insulting, and then it's a
yeah.
little bit of a I'm going to take this insulting name and kind of prove everybody wrong a little bit with it, but also just embrace what makes you different too. Is I think a big part of it. Like some of the film is also Masaki Yuasa, the director. It's him kind of criticizing Japanese no theater with just because it's so rigid and it's so you have to do it this specific way, and anything kind of that stretches beyond that is kind of unacceptable. That ties into the historical art of it, and the kind of specific cultural meanings of some of the stuff in there. But it's also, yeah, it's just a way of going like, let's just like need to be able to experiment with art, and be able to do these different kind of risky things. But also and I've seen this movie in both its English dub and its original Japanese language. And well, either version you watch, you're going to hear the Japanese language for part of it, because even in the English dub, during the big song sequences, they're using the Japanese vocals because the voice actors are also the singers for the songs. And Inuo is voiced by uh, non-binary
Yeah.
musician
Avu,
named Abu-Chan.
yeah,
I
same
believe
here.
Abu-Chan is the way you say it, but I could have that wrong. So please do correct me if I'm pronouncing that wrong. But it's clearly, even though it's not the surface of the storytelling, it's clearly playing with identity as a theme, right? Some of these characters change names, they name themselves. Their music is flamboyant and over the top, and the costuming, it's clearly pulling in again that there's the David Bowie, Freddie Mercury part, especially some of you see any of those performances from those musicians, you'll get this kind of gender bending thing out of some of their performances, and I think that's captured here quite well.
People, don't know the music of people like David Bowie, Michael Jackson, Prince, even was another
Prince,
figure like
yeah,
that. Very much about with David Bowie, the phases, all these different phases he went through, the Ziggy Stardust phase. There he had many, many different kind of looks that inspired him there. But yeah, people mentioned the word androgynous was big. Maybe I think the '80s really was a lot of that androgyny.
yeah.
That was kind of a big thing. A lot of glam, kind of rock bands, musicians of that.
Well, never forget, George Michael at the time was considered a straight sex symbol for women. So that
No,
tells you what the 80s, that gives
uh,
you a sense of it.
yeah. Liberace too. I think for a lot of women
Yeah,
liked Liberace too. That was a big thing with women. But yeah, so you had that kind of going on. But yeah, you see the music, and the music is a big part of the movie. There, so you have a mix of horror, magical elements there, plus the music, which makes this kind of a musical, plus like an opera thing going on, as
plus
well
the
as that.
historical part, but there's a lot to it. There really is.
And then the director, we watched a little bit of an interview he did beforehand, and he mentioned how, like, very much taking cues from musicians, like the playing behind the back is very much like Jimi Hendrix. So as the showmanship that the character has there with that, and yeah, so you have a lot of that, and that's a very much a big thing in the movie there. But the character of Tomichi, who later turns into very much dressing androgyny makeup, wearing women's kind of clothing there that you see the character wear in it. And you did mention the character, the voice actor, the Japanese voice actor is non-binary there, so that adds to the element of it. But yeah, like you mentioned, the core of the story is about representation, is about kind of being your authentic self and expressing that, and the beauty that can be there. These two people being outcasts of society and then kind of finding a connection there because the character Inuo, he's so used to people being scared of him because of the way he looks and because how disfigured he is. But the character that he meets is blind, so obviously that doesn't matter to them. So they're just discussing music and they kind of bond over that connection there, which I think is very good. And you mentioned, the historical element that kind of comes in there, because a lot of what he's doing with his music is also, recounting the tale of the Hiki there, a Haiki.
Heike, don't, if I pronounce it wrong, forgive me there. I believe it's Heike. Um, that's just for me trying to listen closely to how they say it in the film, how the Japanese actors say it. But yeah, I mean, I actually feel like I learned a bit of history from this movie as well. But there was, you know, to this period that this movie's taking place in, an ancient battle. And the studio and Masaki Uasa actually did another anime called The Heike Story. That's like a short mini series. That's actually about that time period as well. Something I still need to watch. But it is, yeah, this big battle for control between two different shoguns, or two
Mhm.
different people claiming to be shogun. Uh, I can only get so deep into it. My knowledge is, I think, pretty surface level, but it's something I definitely want to learn more about. In this movie, I feel like there is a real historical knowledge that it at least kind of hooks you on to a little bit.
Mm. Yeah. So that adds that element in there. And it's about these telling this tale of like these two clans that fought for control of Japan, and then it ended there. But they very much trying to impress him, and then the music that he's telling with this, through violence, through silence there of arrest and things like that you see in the movie. So that you have that element there that comes in, and the way that story is told is very well done, I think, in kind of leading up to that, which is very good there. Um, and just kind of also, I mean, I showed a little bit of also the trailer here, but let me show it again. But just the animation also too is also very good as well, and how
Yeah, it
expressive.
looks incredible. And I also just like, I feel like dancing has to be one of the hardest things to animate in general because the movement is constant. Like there's just every part of the body is moving and the clothes are folding and just there's just this constant movement going on. So, and it's so fluid. And there's never really like still too much stillness in this. Like, man, a few shots here and there. But then on top of that, there's also just a lot of like really creative uses of the animation. Tomona or Tomoichi, at times early on, you are seeing things animated based on just what he can hear because he's blind. And so you get these cool, almost like what you maybe would expect from like the way things might look in like a Daredevil comic.
Mm.
You're seeing his senses kind of show what the world is around him, but you're just getting these glimpses and how he perceives things that I think is really, really cool looking.
Oh yeah, there's some. I'll see if I can find a clip of it. Yeah, this scene like very much like his kind of way he kind of daredevil way sees things. Like you see that, and it's animated way differently than we see normally in the movie itself, which is really nice. And there's different animation styles that you see throughout it. Moments that kind of come up. There's like this demon creature there that kind of comes up. Like that's just this mass that you see kind of encompassing everything, which is really cool. That's a really cool sequence that they do there.
The way its
Um,
eyes are like spiraling constantly looks really cool.
oh yeah, that looks really good. So I think yeah, there's a lot of unique kind of touches there that is very nice. And were you so you weren't familiar with the director's work there before, or you were a little bit familiar?
So I had seen Devilman Crybaby already before this. I think that was it though. I want to say, well, actually, he actually guest animated an episode of Adventure Time back
Mm.
in like the mid 2010s. So that was the first thing I had seen, but I didn't know who he was at the time. But then yeah, with Devilman Crybaby, he directed that. That was the first time I really heard his name or really started to learn it. And then this would have been the second thing I saw from him. And since then, I've watched a couple more. I really think that Masaki Yuasa, his name belongs on there with like some of on the list of like the greatest animators living today. He should be in the same conversation with people like Hayao Miyazaki, or I suppose he's not living today, but people like really legendary work animators like Satoshi Kon and stuff like that. He's just got such a unique style. You recognize it, but also each of his things do look very different from each other. He founded the Studio Science Saru as well, which recently did Don to Don, which we reviewed last year. Um, and he's kind of the reason that that studio is so kind of friendly to its workers, which is something I've every time the studios come up, I've always made a point to be like, hey, support these people because they actually give their employees reasonable work schedules.
Hmm. Yeah. So yeah, Science Saru, who's behind the animation with this. We've talked about them many times before on the show. Like you mentioned, Don, Scott Pilgrim. They did a segment with
Yes.
Star Wars Visions there that they did. So yeah, and was I'm trying to see. So was one of the first things they did as a studio Adventure Time? Was one of the first?
I don't know if Science Saru technically did Adventure Time or if that was just Masaki Yuasa just himself as like a guest director.
Uh,
But
I'm seeing on Wikipedia here, as I'm going by this, it says Science Saru's first animation was on the Food Chain episode of the American animated series Adventure Time, which was in
then I guess it was.
2014. So there's that. So if you want to trust Wikipedia there, if you want to do that. But yeah, I mean, this is a great tale. I think if you want to check it out and people want to see it there, it's only an hour and I think 40 something minutes, hour and 40 something minutes. Uh,
I think it's only an hour and a half. I think it's even a little shorter than that.
out there, and it'll go by pretty fast there. When watching it, pace is really good with it.
And once you get
And
into the second half, almost the whole rest of the movie are these song numbers. Like I said, it really feels like going to a concert.
yeah, so it kind of depends of whether you. I know some people don't like musicals. Kind of depends on whether you like that or not, and whether you like this style of music. This kind of glam rock metal type music that you have here depends if you like that or not. I like
I
that.
have talked to a few people that don't like musicals, but did like this movie.
Oh, okay. So hey, look, it's got crossover appeal. I mean, the cat loved it. He was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna watch it right now." It's just so good. Yeah, can't wait. I love this movie there. Yeah. So, what would be your final thoughts rating for it?
Yeah, I mean, this I've watched this probably about 12 times total since I first found this. I was just scrolling and I took a chance on it a couple of years ago, and it's kind of become one of my favorite movies. It's scratched on top of just everything I think it does well. It also just scratched like a deep itch that I have from my childhood, from like wearing out the VHS tape for the Yellow Submarine by watching that over and over again when I was like five. So it just it hits a particular itch for me. But I think even beyond that, I think it does just so many things so well. I think it's got multiple messages, historical context messages, social messages, just great entertainment factor that all of it's just mixed in so well. And I think everything is so layered and everything enhances everything else. And it never feels like it's stopping to change what it's doing, even though I feel like it does almost change genre a couple times in the middle of the movie. You almost don't notice that it's doing it because it's so seamless. This is cinema for me. And I truly think that if I do like a best of the decade at the end of the 2020s list, it's going to be on there
Wow. Okay. Wow, you loved it that much. Wow.
that
This is
much.
cinema, one of the best movies of the 2020s. Wow. Okay. Um, yeah, I like this movie. I would definitely watch it again. Like I said, I mean, I like the music in it. Maybe interested to see if I will listen to any of the songs afterwards, just like play it.
I've
You know,
got it on like my playlist on Spotify, like regularly when am I listening to this?
no, and the music. Who was behind the music on this here?
Well, I know
Yoshidi.
Avu-chan was part of it at least, right, as the vocal performance, but I'm not sure who wrote the songs.
Yeah, so it says he's the music by him, but let's see who also contributes like writing the songs and everything like that.
Yeah.
Um yeah, so I don't see who wrote the songs here. Uh,
Yoshihide is the name.
mm, okay. So you got him there. So that works. The story really works. Like I said, truly, about the expression of art and what that really means and how that has the power on society, and how art can be used in a political manner. I think is a really great story to tell. And I think they told it in a beautiful way there with these kind of characters. Uh, and I think that really was highlighted incredibly well. Um, for me, I would give it. mm, I'd probably give it a peak. I'd give it like a strong tune into a peak, maybe with that there. I saw the English version of it. I did not see the Japanese version of it. You saw the Japanese version there.
That's why you didn't like it quite as much.
Maybe if I saw the Japanese version, maybe it would work better there.
And I'll say I've watched both. I don't think the English dub is bad actually here, but I do think it's jarring to be for it the way it swaps back and forth because it's every time a music number starts up, it's swapping to the Japanese voice performance, and
Yeah,
then it's going back to the English one afterwards. And even again, I don't think the English dubbing is bad, but I do think the fact that it's going back and forth between these two things, I think that makes it kind of like it. I when I watched it in English, it kind of took me out of it a lot more. So
mm, okay, I can understand. Yeah, it was kind of a little bit of a tone shift, like because I'll be like, wait, they're singing in Japanese, but yeah, then it switches back to English there. I wonder if it's been different if it was just consistent all the way through. But the English voices are fine. I think the English voices do really well there. So yeah, I give it a peek. Sage gives it a cinema for Inua.